Hey, Call. Welcome back to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks, Mal.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
This is a topic that you initiated,
Yes.
which means that your clients are feeling this particular pain, and it's important for you to talk about it.
Yeah, so it's the beginning of May when we're recording this right now.
Yes.
Which is typically for most people, deal with seasonality. This is becoming the busy time of year, particularly for sales.
Yes.
People are waking out of their winter slumber. They're seeing their home and they're seeing all the work they want to do on their home. And, I think a lot of people want to get work done before summer hits, right? Or they want to get things done and organized. It's a big, I think there's a big, fall nesting time. Let's gather all the acorns before the winter. And there's always a rush to get work done then.
Yep.
I feel like there's a similar rush right
Spring
now.
cleaning.
Spring cleaning. It's like, I want to get this done before the season hits. I want to enjoy my backyard. I want to get the patio done before the summertime. So
Yep.
I think that, we're talking now, why is there a rush? I think everyone knows that there's a rush. So when that's happening on the sales side, the sales reps for the most part are slammed. Hopefully you're experiencing the same thing. Hopefully you're slammed if you're listening to this. The problem that causes is sales reps tend to get very booked out. So they'll sometimes, I'm hearing clients having their estimators and sales reps do 5-6 estimates a day sometimes.
Too much.
Sometimes 25 a week.
Ooh.
Which is just crazy, right? You think about it, let's say you're doing 25 estimates a week for a month, 100 people in 4 weeks that you just met, spoke with them about their project, tried to at least pretend to them like you cared about them, right? How can you can't possibly remember 100 people, 100 different projects.
No.
I can barely keep 50 people straight in my life, right? So it's just too many people to properly sell.
Yeah.
And it's much more akin to working the cashier stand at like a supermarket. It's like you're coming up, you're telling me what you want, I'm telling you what the total price is. This doesn't happen at grocery stores, but you're just like, I'm just here to tell you what the price is. You tell me, and then we'll do the work for you. We'll sell you the products. So be it. If you're doing 25 estimates a week, you have more in common with that person than you do someone who's going out and being like, I got an hour and a half with this person. I need to figure out what's going on in their world, what they care about, and how I can potentially solve their problems, which is what we really want to be doing. We want to be selling on value and solving problems. If you're doing 25 estimates a week, you're selling on price for the most part. You're coming in, I'm telling you the price for what this is going to cost. You're going to take it or you're not. I'm on to the next. Within a day, I don't even remember that I was there. Right?
What's the likelihood or the percentage of closing?
33% typically. We always say that it's a third of the people you're never going to get because price is too high, because your time frame is not what they want, or because they're just tire kickers, whatever it is. Theoretically, there are exceptions to that rule. 33% of new inbound leads, you're just not going to win. 33% you're always going to win because that person doesn't have the time to get 2 estimates. They're in a rush.
Right.
They have heard your name already and they trust you, so they don't need to go anywhere else. Whatever it is, you're just, people have to pick someone, they might as well pick you. So you're going to win 33%. It's that middle 33% or 33.3% that you're fighting over. And that's a difference. Now, the exception to this would be if your company's been around for a long time, you have a lot of past customers, and every customer you go to is, knows your brand and knows you're a past customer, right? When a customer walks on a Mercedes car,
lot?
A car lot. There you go. Thanks. When a customer walks on a Mercedes car lot, they're expecting the price to be high. They already have an idea of what they're buying, know the value.
Yep.
Whereas if someone's walking onto a car lot of a brand they don't know anything about, it's going to be a lower chance of that person buying. Mm-hmm. So when your customer knows about your company well in advance, they've bought from you before, they're price conditioned, you're going to close more of them. So yes, you could close 80% or 90% of your estimates if your customer is really price conditioned and they're all referrals or past customers. But for the most part, talking about just a pool of leads that we're acquiring, that we're paying for, 33, typical amount. And what I'm hearing right now is a lot of people are kind of in that zone. If you're doing these 25 estimates a week, you're probably closing somewhere between 33 and 35%.
So
That's a lot of what I'm hearing.
And I don't need to say it, a 33% close rate, win rate, not great.
Yeah, so it's all relative, right? I wouldn't consider that great. Mm-hmm. But if you are a company that's got an abundance of leads and you don't so much care about a low close rate because you just care about the volume, then maybe that's fine. But for most companies we work with, leads are expensive, sales reps are expensive. They need to be maximizing their time and really applying their skills to being as efficient as possible with every single estimate that they go on. I don't want someone driving to an estimate, giving them a price and driving home, wasting time there, back. It's a lead that I paid for. Whatever your customer acquisition cost is, you're paying for that. So or you're paying for the lead that you generated rather. So yeah, 50% is, that's the standard of what people should be trying for if you're selling a value-based product.
So when I say the phrase, if you're having trouble closing, you're having trouble opening, how does that relate to this?
I mean, if you've been in sales for a while, you've definitely heard of that. Closing being getting closure. Certainly there's sales success rate, which is getting the yes. Then there's closure, which is getting a yes or a no. So if you're having trouble getting a yes or a no, or having trouble getting yeses, then that tells me that you're likely not following a sales process or the sales process, whatever your company's sales process is. And the opening that we're talking about is the setting the table. It's taking the time in the very beginning of the appointment to set the table, let the customer know exactly how this appointment is going to go. I'm going to ask a lot of questions. Hope that's okay. I expect you have questions. Feel free to ask me some questions. We're going to talk price. We're making sure they have the right amount of time set aside, and you're preparing them for what the end of this appointment is going to look like. It's going to be, we're a fit. We're not a fit. We need to meet again at some point in the future. So if you're not getting the closure you want and you're like, why am I not closing higher? Why am I closing at 35%? I would reflect back upon two things. Number one is going to be setting the table. And the second is going to be the finding pain, which is what I really want to talk about here.
Let's find some pain.
Setting the table, I think is easier. It's just like, have a script. Don't read it as if you're like going bullet point by bullet point. Make it conversational, of course. But like hit these 3 to 4 things the first 5 minutes of every appointment you go on and check mark. You did it. It's not so much about them, it's about you. Are you setting the agenda? And then you can hold them accountable to it later on. It's pretty simple. You either do it or you don't. Finding pain is much more difficult for a lot of reasons, primarily because it relies on the customer. It's kind of out of your control to some extent. You can't fabricate pain if it doesn't exist. You can't force someone to talk to you. We're not threatening people to say, you need to tell me what your pain is, right?
Right.
It's up to them to feel comfortable enough to share with us. And in order for them to feel comfortable sharing their pain with us, we have to convince them that we're not going to use it against them, that we're here to help, that we're a consultative seller. So setting the table is the start of that.
Yep.
Through the appointment and through all the questions you ask, you need to convince the customer that you're there to help. And hopefully they're going to share the pain. Not many sales reps are actually getting to the pain. They think they're getting to pain. They're not getting to pain. They're staying what I like to call surface level around the pain. They're finding it, and then they're not diving in. They're going, oh, they had a bad experience with a contractor 2 years ago. I can use that. So they found it. It's like using a metal detector on a beach, and you're wafting it over the sand for hours, and then it finally goes off, and you found something. And you're like, great, I found something. And then you turn around and walk away. No, you did all that work to get there. Freaking dig it up. So people get to pain, and then they don't dig it up. They don't sit in it. They don't just marinate in the pain. I like to think of pain as like a hot tub. Once you find it, hang out for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not a cold plunge that you're timing yourself. I did a minute. I can get out now.
Yeah.
I'm going to relax. I'm going to explore the studio space. I'm going to see what this is all about. And then when I'm finally good and pruny, then I'll hop out. So people aren't doing that.
Yeah. You think you've asked a question, you found something. There's always, if you think you asked enough questions, you probably need to ask more.
Yeah. And then the big thing I get is like, yeah, I asked these questions, but I don't get anything. Like, well, because the customer is programmed by their years of dealing with bad sales reps to not share information with you. Like, I want to defend myself. I want to share because then you're going to use it against me.
Right.
So it's going to take several questions. It's going to take multiple minutes, not just 1 minute of asking questions. It's going to take multiple minutes, 10, 15. It's going to take persistence. It's going to take you being able to influence them to share with you. And if you have 5 estimates to get to that day, you were just sitting there like tapping your foot like, I got to go. What am I doing here? I don't want to listen to your pain. I want to give you an estimate. I want to get this job and I want to go. So it takes patience.
So I'm hearing almost 2 sides to this. One is the practice of like learning how to work through that pain funnel and ask questions and use that pain funnel when you're getting to objections, which we'll talk about. But the second thing is also kind of the sales management side. And this is where sales managers and, scheduling comes into play. There's a reason why we're putting blocks for certain times for estimates. We're putting drive time in between. If you stack them, like you're just saying, 5 in a row, you are setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. And then the trouble you might run into there is like, well, I can't do 3 a day because then my estimators are going to be 3 weeks booked out. Then it sounds like you need to hire an estimator.
Right.
You need to figure, don't let another problem create this problem. That's like, let's solve each problem individually. So yes, solve that problem, hire another estimator, figure out your workforce, the sales team. But by forcing your people to do 5 estimates a day, it is impossible. I mean, sure, 1 day is fine, right?
It happens.
I'm talking about making this like this is a routine thing. Look at the average estimates per week your sales reps are going on over the last month, for example.
Okay.
And if it's more than 15, if it's more than 20, I would be willing to bet a good amount that the close rate corresponds in a negative way. Higher the estimate rate goes, close rate goes down further because you're just not able to sell on value, not able to push them towards pleasure or away from pain. Can't do it. You need time for that. Time and patience. So yes, it's got to be a management decision. We are not going to sell on price. We are going to maximize how many estimates our estimators can go on in any given week. They got problems with that, so be it. It's my company. I'm going to dictate to them. I need to mandate a 50% close rate, and in order to do that, I have to force them to play within these lines because I know it's what works.
So I think that's important kind of table setting here is that the practice of doing this requires time. And so, yeah, I mean, it's going to be really hard to find the pain and to be able to work through this process if you haven't allocated yourself enough.
Same thing goes with prospecting, by the way. I don't have time to prospect. I don't have time to do business development. I'm going on leads. I'm going on bids. No, you're not. You have no estimates anymore on Wednesdays. You are going to be going on prospecting and you're going to be making phone calls.
We have a handful of clients who have done that.
Yeah, George Apap was the first person that I heard that did. I'm sure other people do it as well. But George, I don't know if he still does it, but he no longer allowed his sales reps to have estimates on Wednesdays because they were complaining about not having enough time to do the prospecting activities that he was requiring.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, all of a sudden you have time now. So if they don't have time to find pain and don't have time to prospect, you're in control of that. You just need to force their hand.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Change the calendar.
That's 12 estimates a week that those guys can go on now because they lose a full day. So that's closing 6 of the 12. Average job size is $7,000. You can do the math there. You're getting close to $200,000 a month in sales. It's not impossible.
And this is going off track just a little bit, but that also shows the importance of when you've changed the calendaring of time for a sales rep. It shows also how important it is the qualifying on the front end goes, that it's in the market you want to service. It's going to be a big enough job that's going to make sense for someone to go out there. So the quality of those leads, because people traveling there is money on the clock.
Yeah, I can't possibly pre-qualify 25 estimates a week, but can you do 15? Probably.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen. You don't have time for 15? How much do you have time for? 12? Yeah. Then let's do 12. The goal is if I'm taking the time out of my day to go to this customer's business or home, wherever I'm going, I need to make sure that my odds of this being a fit for my company are really high because I don't want to waste my time or the customer's time.
It's not just checking boxes.
Correct.
All right, let's talk about the price objections and relating it to pain here, because the practice of finding pain, you're doing that for a reason. And what is that reason?
Yes. So people, you want to sell on price, you can do that. There's a lot of products and companies out there that sell on price and make a lot of money. It's not typically what we're going for here. Okay. This is not the podcast for you. We here are selling on value. It's selling on experience, moving people towards pleasure and away from pain. So it's the basis of our sales system. It's why customers buy is more important than what selling. So what do you want to buy? Customers hate to be sold, they love to buy. So what do you want to buy? I need to figure out what's going to make you want to buy from me. Buy from anyone. It may not be from me, which is part of the whole thing. I'm okay with no.
Yeah.
But what's going to make you buy? What is the value that you're going to find that I can have a higher price that's going to make you want to pay that higher price? So if you can move them towards pleasure, that's great. Mm-hmm. But with a lot of contracting and service industry sales appointments, it's moving people away from pain is typically what's going to get it done. So you need to find the pain that they've had around this type of work in the past, and that's what you need to contract around. Contract around the pain. The price that you're going to propose to them and the services you're going to offer are solving their problem, and it's solving the pain they had in the past. So they have to associate not experiencing a traumatic event to a higher price. If I can, a really simple example is going to be, the price of a ambulance ride and a night in the hospital is really expensive. The price of a helmet is, a good helmet could be expensive too, but I'm happy to pay it to avoid a greater pain. Paying a lot of money is painful. Customers are going to see your price and they're going to feel pain because that's a high price. I can't afford that. Or maybe I can't afford it. I just don't want to.
It's like doing preventative maintenance on your car so that you don't have the big traumatic bill at the end. To your helmet point though, helmets are very expensive.
Especially like if you want to, they're like high-end helmets. Yeah, they're expensive.
But even like a nice standard one, at least $100. Right. I digress, but it's a great analogy.
So you need to not create a pain, show them that the pain of them paying this high price pales in comparison to the pain they've experienced in the past, and you're helping them to avoid. Take this pain now, swallow this pill of a higher price now. It's the value you're going to receive, and the avoidance of a pain that you've experienced in the past is going to be way, way higher.
And so it's the art of finding pain.
The art of finding pain is huge. So
Yeah.
like we talked about, people sometimes don't find it, or they find it and they move away. But ultimately it starts at setting the table. I ask a lot of questions, Mrs. Jones. I hope that's okay. People tell me I ask a lot of questions. The reason I do that is because reasons why our customers buy from us are all different. We provide a quality product, but what people are looking for from an experience standpoint, it varies. So I need to figure out what you're looking for, both in a product standpoint, but also from an experience standpoint. And in order to do that, I need to ask a lot of questions. So do you mind if I ask a lot of questions? I hope that's okay. And of course, they're going to say yes, because you hold all the power in that moment, right? The power dynamic is in your favor. Mm-hmm. The power dynamic shifts to the customer's favor once the price has been given. So before you give the scope and the estimate and the price, you hold all the power. So what you want to do,
really interesting point.
What you want to do when you hold the power is get commitment from them, that they have enough time to spend with you, that they're going to get back to you whether you're a yes or a no or next step agreement, that they're going to be okay talking money. Like, you got to get their commitment to your process before the power shifts. And then so that way you can hold them accountable to it later on.
To some people, that's going to feel interrogating. The number of questions that
well, it's called an interview for a reason. It basically is an interview. I'm interviewing you to see if you're a fit for our company and to see if we can solve your problems.
Gosh, even like that description, that word alone, like if we were to set the table saying almost like, this is a discovery for the two of us, if we're the right project, if we're the right business to fit to fix your project. I mean, I think the expectation, okay, I'm going to answer questions here now that you've said it's an interview, in a sense. That changes the game for me, and at least how I would think about a contractor coming to my house. I haven't thought about it as an interview before.
Yeah, I mean, so saying, hey, I need to interview you here. Some customers might not love that terminology. Yeah. But you can make a joke of like, oh, it's almost like an interview. I need to see if we're a fit. So make it whatever. We like to say, don't let the tool rule. Don't let the exact word you say get in the way of doing the thing, which is let them know you're going to ask a lot of questions. Make sure they're okay with that, so that if at any point down the road you're asking them questions and you feel like they're throwing up a wall, you can call timeout and go, Molly, I hope it's okay. I'm asking these questions. As I said when I first walked in the door, I ask a lot of questions. Hope that's okay, but it's only because of this. So do you mind if I keep peeling back a little bit more? Mm-hmm. So you hold them accountable to it, because you still hold the power. And
continuing to ask for permission when walls start getting thrown up, or you're starting to maybe sense a bit of defensiveness.
Exactly. If you feel like you're getting close to the pain, they may throw up a wall. You go, Mrs. Jones, I'll just use your name. Molly, I know this might not be a fun thing to talk about, the past experience you had that didn't go well, but it really helps me to know. That way we can make sure that we're packing as much value as we can into our price, and we're going to make sure that this doesn't happen to you. So I need to know what matters to you, and this clearly mattered. So, there's a lot of places you can go to find interview questions, as we would call them, questions for finding pain. Molly, I know price is always a big consideration, but besides price, what are your one or two biggest considerations when choosing a contractor here? What's the most important thing that if you could just snap your fingers and have happen about picking a contractor, and what's something they would do? What would it be? What's your biggest concern? What do you look for? And then, of course, the one that everyone uses is, have you ever worked with a contractor before? And sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no, but whatever they say, you need to dig on that, because their past contractor experience, be it good or bad, is just a treasure trove of information. If it was good, number one, why aren't you going with them again?
Yeah.
What's stopping that? But also, if it was a different trade, for example, what did they do that was so great? Can I copy that? Somebody already solved this problem. Why reinvent the wheel? Let's solve it. Let's just copy whatever formula they used, right?
And that worked really well for you.
Yeah, great. So we're moving you towards pleasure in that example. We make sure this is exactly what we're going to do. But most of the time, it's going to be painful contractor experiences. And that's typically where you need to dig more. People don't like to talk about painful experiences. Pain's a funny thing. Trauma is a funny thing. The brain and negative past experiences, the brain looks to paper over them. It doesn't want you to have access to all the negative experiences of your life, because that's just not fun to have.
It's just protecting us.
Yeah, to have kind of rattling around in there. It's not great. So that's why nostalgia exists. Nostalgia is where you tend to make the past all nice and rosy and fun. If you've ever moved homes and you go back to the home that you used to live in, you don't pull up to the house. Most people, hopefully, don't pull up to the house and start frowning and remember all the bad times you had there. You remember all the good times you had there. You remember, we learned to ride a bike right out front there. This happened over here. The highlights, because your brain wants to romanticize the past.
Yeah. Same way you think about maybe a past relationship. Like,
Sure.
There's a reason it ended.
Right.
But like, you sometimes think back fondly upon experiences that you had, and that's your brain protecting you.
Right. Exactly. So when it comes to the pain of working with a contractor in the past, people will remember the nuts and bolts of it, but their brain has done a really good job of having them forget how it actually felt in their core. So an example would be talking about like, so let's just use a traumatic example for me is like, Colin, tell me about when your grandfather died. I could say he died on this day. I found out at this time, and here's where I was when I heard. Nuts and bolts. It was not a great day. Nothing about that is making me emotional. I can say that. I'm just regurgitating what happened and how it made me feel to some extent. But then if you go, tell me more about how that made you feel. What were you thinking that day? What was going through your brain? Who were you with? What were you guys talking about? And I'm transporting myself back in time to that moment. And I have to begin to relive it, to remember these things, because these things are there, but they're not readily available. So I'm going back, I'm remembering, I'm talking through. It was a really tough day. I remember when I got the phone call. I remember this, that. I remember how I felt. And the emotion starts to flood back.
Yeah. It's interesting. Just as you're talking about this, I have put myself back in that situation. And yeah, I could be the same way. I could tell you facts, but now when I'm thinking about where I was, who called me.
What was the look on people's faces?
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
Yeah.
What'd you do that night?
The emotion comes back.
Emotion starts to come back.
For sure.
So when we're finding pain with customers, we are not manipulating. We're not fabricating or creating. That's why I like to say we're not creating pain. The pain exists. The pain is there.
Yeah.
You're not creating anything. You are simply defogging for them their past experience and helping them to remember how brutal it was. If it was brutal, right? If all was great, all was great. But if it was brutal, like, hey, you need to remember this because my price is going to be high, but I'm not going to put you through that pain.
Right.
This is not going to happen to you.
Right.
And in order for you to be able to make that judgment, you have to remember the pain.
There are a couple of techniques in finding the pain. I mean, you mentioned interviewing. What role does listening play in here? Because we had a sales workshop a couple of weeks ago, and it was pretty clear that listening, letting the customer talk, was a big struggle for a lot of the reps who were attending that they were realizing, oh no, I'm talking way more than I should be here.
Sales traditionally has the good at talking, so I should be in sales. That's the mindset. When the best sales reps are the ones who listen, and it's kind of like I'm going to go back to the beach analogy with a metal detector. Mm-hmm. You're listening and you're waiting for that one thing that they say you can pounce on. You're waiting. You're looking at you're not just listening, but you're hearing their tone. You're listening for specific buzzwords that they use, their body language. Like, for example, the one that I always like to use is if I ask you, how did it go working with the contractor in the past? And if someone goes, it's good. If the voice ever goes up, it's like, uh-oh, the voice went up. That's a sign.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't as good as opposed to it was great. So does it always go down and go, it was great? Or oh, no, it was good. Yeah.
It's fine.
Because someone's not going to go, it was awful, right? It's always going to be, I'm not going to share too much. So I'll go, it was good.
Yeah. That's why I say it was fine, because when someone says something's fine, there's also there's something there, and how do we find it?
Yeah. So, people are not going to come out and tell you, here's my pain, here's what I care about, sell me. It's all about listening and inferring and reading body language. That's the whole ball game.
Yeah. So
you need to craft your questions around not just what you're hearing, but what you're seeing and the tonality that they're using. If you're like, yeah, I asked them about their past experience, said it was good, but if they're like, it was good, like, no, it wasn't good. What they're saying verbally is not what they mean.
Yeah.
So it's not just listening; it's the whole thing. It's observing the whole thing.
That's that neuroplasticity, or the programming where it's more so used in bond and rapport, but it's teaching you to be aware of the tonality, the words that are being used, the body signals of and being able to read into that a little bit more. One more technique, and then I want to do a little bit of a role play with you. Talk to me a little bit about inverting. How does that come into play here?
Inverting is great. It's something that not enough sales reps do, in my opinion, for a very easily explained reason. So when somebody asks you a question when you're on an estimate, when you hear a question, you need to treat it as if your metal detector is going, like, oh, I found something. And too often we treat it like it's a slam dunk. Like, oh, it's an alley-oop. I'm going to slam this one home. No, Mrs. Jones, we use only the best products. We don't use any second-rate products. Done. Slam that one home. Crushed it. Check mark. Because we're always looking for approval. Humans are always seeking approval.
Right.
So and to make other people feel good. So if they have a question and I can make them feel good because I know my answer is going to be what they want, and I want their approval, I'm going to slam dunk, hit a home run here, and let's answer this question and be on with our day. The trick is to treat questions not as opportunities to prove your value, but as opportunities to learn more about the customer. So when someone asks a question, here's a simple question, Molly. Why would somebody ask a question?
Because they're trying to learn something.
Trying to learn something.
For a certain reason.
Why would they want to learn something?
Because then maybe that's going to impact their decision.
Because they care about whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like, this is something that I'm taking the time to ask you about. Because whatever your answer is matters to me.
Yeah.
So something matters to you. Well, what matters to them? That's what I got to find out. So inverting is Mrs. Jones, it's a great question from, a lot of customers are concerned about the types of materials that we use. Curious, is there a reason that you asked that? Is there a certain material that you're looking for? Have you had experience in the past where somebody's not used great materials? Hopefully you're on your way to finding some type of paint or some sort of thing that they're going to place value on that will help you to overcome the price objection later on. So every question you get is them setting up a flare of, here's a pain point, here's something to ask, here's something that I care about. And you can't look a gift horse in the mouth on that. Yeah, every question is a gift, not to answer it. So eventually you want to answer it. That's a question I always get. It's like, well, at what point do I answer the question?
Right.
Once you've gotten to the dead end of the pain or to the concern, once you're confident that you've reached it, go. Totally. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with me, Molly. To answer your question, we do use the best materials. We can certainly talk more about that later on when we're hitting the price. But rest assured, we're going to be able to meet your expectations there.
So inverting is answering a question with the question.
Correct.
In its simplest form.
And also, you want to make sure that whatever you're about to blurt out from an answer standpoint is also the one they want to hear. You don't always know that that's what they want to hear.
That's a really good point.
So that's
could even be with timeline. How far out booked are you? We could start next week. Well, I can't start next week.
Well, I mean, an easy one would be like, oh, you guys are really in high demand. You're pretty busy, huh? Yeah, we're crazy busy. We're really slammed. We're pretty booked out. Oh, I was hoping I want to get done in 2 weeks.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So you can't make assumptions around questions.
That's a really good point. All right. Should we try to do a role play here?
Yeah. So you've built up a backstory.
Yeah, a little bit. Full disclosure, we recorded a role play version of this before, and it didn't go so well.
Because you didn't have any pain.
Because I didn't have any pain.
So Molly has had a couple contractors in the past. So have you ever had a contractor work with you in the past?
Are we role playing now?
No, I'm serious. Have you ever had a word with a contractor?
Yeah, I did a fence. I mean,
there's just not a lot of pain to go off of.
Correct.
Yeah.
Most things I know are situations that other people have experienced. Right. I had a girlfriend. She literally has just gone through hell and back basically with a contractor, and I've been trying to kind of coach her a little bit along the way, just about things that I know. So I feel her pain, but I personally, as a homeowner, as a consumer, have not felt a ton of personal contractor pain.
It's like if her, someone really, really close to her passed away, you'd be sad for her.
Correct.
But it's not like it's your pain.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm basically there so she can vent to me about her pain.
So you've come up with a backstory that I'm not really aware of, and there's some pain.
Yep.
In this backstory from that you've made up, and I need to find a way to get to it.
Yep.
And then hopefully you're not going to be too obstinate, but you're also not going to give it up right in the beginning either. You're going to make me work for a little bit here.
That's where my acting hat's going to put on, and I've never claimed to be an actor. So we're going to do our best.
Set the stage here. What am I coming out to take a look at?
So you were coming out here. I have got old wooden floors that I want to be refinished in my downstairs.
Perfect. And we're assuming that I've already set the table.
Mm-hmm.
We've done some bond and rapport already.
Yep.
Gotten some of that stuff out of the way.
Yep.
Right. Awesome. So I see these floors here. This is what we're going to be taking a look at today, Molly. Before we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the project and the price, of course, and the estimate, do you mind if I ask you a few questions just about what you're kind of looking for here?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
So your past experiences and what you're looking for in this experience is really important to us. Price is always a factor.
Yes.
Is price the number one consideration here, or are there other things that you care about that are going to impact who you guys go with this project?
Obviously, price is important, but I would also say just overall experience, and I would even say craftsmanship is probably a big one here. The quality of the work,
Quality of the work. And then you mentioned the experience as well.
Yeah, just the idea of having people on your property and doing things and kind of interrupting routine a little bit. So I just like to keep that in mind.
So it's important to you that it's up to your expectations. Obviously, I saw your patio out back. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
So you've had some work done in the past.
We have.
Have you ever worked with a flooring contractor by chance?
So not necessarily, the patio is somewhat newer. We did do our kitchen about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And we did get some of the floors redone in there, but that was really all done kind of in conjunction with the kitchen project, so not necessarily separate.
Gotcha. So your past experience with contractors, you've worked with a couple.
Yep.
Good, bad, in the middle?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it's been a little bit all over the place, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Some good and some bad.
Some good and some bad. I mean, this house, you can see this is an older home. We've been here for a couple years now. The kitchen, a great experience overall. I got to give, kudos to that team. They were responsive. It probably went so well that I went and did my next project, and then I was greatly disappointed.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
What project was that?
That was, we did some exterior painting. Our home was built in 1920, and there's a lot of this ornate wooden trim on our front porch.
It looks beautiful.
Thank you. It finally looks beautiful.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
So I'm getting the idea that experience did not go the way you wanted.
Yeah, that was a bit of a struggle.
So
yeah.
What exactly, if you don't mind me asking, what exactly did not meet your expectations there? What was not great?
Yeah, I mean, I think to be fair, I don't have a lot of knowledge about how to refinish wood or to be painting the ornateness of an exterior, but I could just tell while the project was going on that it was looking pretty sloppy, and I wasn't seeing
the actual work itself.
Yeah, painting over things that should have been sanded down first, or fixing maybe some rot here or there.
Uh-oh.
So
was there a lot of rot?
There wasn't a lot. There was one particular area on the front porch that was part of what identified us wanting to get the project done. And so it just, I think I paid special attention to that spot because I could also see it. I mean, I can't see everything.
Sure, but if it's you're the customer, one of your concerns.
Yeah.
So that should have been handled the way that you wanted to.
You would have hoped. You would have thought so.
So that area on the front porch,
mm-hmm.
whatever they did there didn't go well. What is it that they didn't do that you would have hoped that they did?
I guess they didn't prep the surface as well as maybe they should have.
Did you ask them in the moment if they were done prepping? Did you at what point did you intervene, or did you
it was
after, at all?
Yeah, no, it was after a couple of days we finally said something. It was taken a little bit defensively, and maybe our versions of prep are a little bit different. They ended up redoing the project.
Yeah.
And kind of
for days there you were just staring at.
Yeah, because these are not my skills. Probably waited a little too long.
You weren't sure if they were if the prep was done.
Correct.
And you were just
unsure. And then when they had
unsure.
fully moved on to another part of the house and it looked like they were finished there, I was like, wait a second, that doesn't look done the way that I think it should have been done.
How'd that make you feel?
A little bit confused and kind of a what the heck. I mean, it's not inexpensive to be doing this work.
And then when you voiced it, it didn't even go well.
It didn't go great. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, eventually they did do it, but it took a lot of conversations, some kind of, I don't want to use the word threatening of public reputation, but we when we're really happy with things, we tell our friends and family. And if an experience goes really awry, probably going to tell my friends and family too, stay away from that contractor.
Yeah. That sounds brutal. Something that the reason why you had them there in the first place
to fix something,
was to fix this one thing.
Yeah.
And then when they didn't do it and then you voiced it, they didn't even that. That must have been so frustrating.
Yeah. And truthfully, we weren't really prepared for that kind of scenario, having come from a really great kind of kitchen project, which I thought was going to be the more frustrating of the two projects. I have expectations to a degree, but I also understand, things happen. The way the patio was done, it went pretty well. No real complaints. And so we've been lucky. But this particular one just puts a little bit of pause on kind of how we approach this next one.
So it's almost maybe even you could say the quality of the work was one thing, but then the relationship with the contractor and how they made you feel as a customer did not feel important.
Yes.
And make you feel like your concerns weren't valid.
Yes.
Was totally not the experience that you were hoping for.
It was not.
I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Thanks.
That is brutal.
Yeah, not the best. We won't be using them again.
Yeah. I mean, so, quality of work is one thing. It's certainly something that we take pride in, but a lot of people can do a great job. A lot of people these floors are incredible. A lot of people will be able to refinish these and make them look great. I think what we do well is going to be the experience you have and the customer service and the care that we're going to have towards how you're experiencing us in around your home. So you can certainly talk more about that later, but I want to sympathize with you there because that's tough.
Thanks. Yeah, it's good to be beyond. And sorry if I overshare. It just
it
brought up some past
All right.
frustrations.
And scene. You mentioned something with the patio that only went okay, that I almost went down on, because I had to remember this was just a role play and that wasn't real.
Yeah, and good thing you did, because I didn't really have a full backstory there.
Didn't prep for the patio. Okay.
How did I do?
Great.
I had the
You
backstory
were
was there now.
a little more forthcoming than maybe the average customer, but
Yeah.
I think that's okay.
But also, to be honest, that's probably how I would be. A contractor comes to my house.
There you
I'm just a conversational person.
Tough to act. Just you are who you are.
Yeah.
So a couple things there. So I guess I'll ask you, how did it feel on the receiving end? Did it feel like?
Overall, to me, it felt normal. It felt conversational.
Well, that's the key.
Yeah.
Conversational.
Yeah.
And hopefully the bond and rapport that you're doing with the customer is going to facilitate that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I felt like you were sympathizing or maybe empathizing if you had your own experience like that. But you were feeling it. You spent the time. You didn't rush it through.
No. So I found the pain,
Yep.
and then we probably spent at least 2 minutes talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, in the real world, maybe we would have even walked over there to that part of your home and we would have looked at it and we would have talked even longer. But, you know, we're recording a podcast, doing a role play, so that wasn't going to happen.
Correct.
But like, you find it, sit in it, fully unravel the emotions and say the emotional words that you kind of want, that you think that they may feel but aren't saying.
Would you have ever asked about, I mean, I talked a lot about how my kitchen experience went really well.
Yes. So
Would
that,
you have
that
asked about that?
So you talked about how that made you so excited and eager to continue with the next project.
Yeah.
So that definitely would have been something I would have come back to.
Okay.
The operation here was finding pain, so I obviously went towards that. But yeah, there's probably a lot that they did well.
I mean, you could even come back to that if we were to role play. Now you've given me a proposal, it's a lot higher, and I'm comparing the two situations.
So that's the next step. So number one is, once you find it, don't move on from it. Sit in it. Ask them how did that make you feel? How much did that cost you? What did you try? And what they say? I can't believe it. Like relive it with them, and then gently alleviate their concerns, but then move on and keep that in your back pocket. Mm-hmm. So you find the pain not in the moment. The reason you find the pain is not for that moment. The reason you find the pain is for later on, when you're going, Colin, you know, we got 3 estimates to do our floors. We really want to go with you guys for all the reasons we've already talked about. Your reputation's excellent, reviews, you made us feel great. You're $4,000 more expensive. Yeah. And I'm gonna go, you're absolutely right, Molly. We are always going to be more expensive. We're probably the most expensive contractor for flooring in the whole area, really. But there's a reason for that. The reason is because the experience you're gonna have with us is going to be one that you're going to want to shout from the rooftops about. We are going to make sure that this is going to be identical to the one you had for your kitchen. That went so great, and that makes you want to have your whole home redone because of how much of a joy it was. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure you never feel the way that any contractor made you feel. And in order to do that, we have to pay our guys more. We have to take more time on the project. We have to have more systems in place to make sure the customer's always happy. These things all cost money. Here's
a question for you. What happens in scenarios where, I mean, you just found my pain, mm-hmm. right? But let's say my husband was not there and he did not get to partake in the conversation. Maybe I've got more pain than he does about that situation because I was working from home and I saw it more. How do you balance? And I'll say, I mean, I'm fortunate. My husband and I, we tend to see eye and eye on, you know, how we approach value of contractor just in general in projects. But I imagine there's situations where one person feels like it does make sense to pay the higher price for that better experience, where the other person is on the opposite page and just wants to get the job done, doesn't really care.
Yeah.
Wants the lowest price.
This is a good example of this, you know, in the commercial world. Is I'm dealing with the facilities manager who brings the proposals to the board, and the board makes the call. And people, you know, throw their hands up and like, it doesn't matter. They're not the decision makers, so why would I even try and find their pain? Yeah. I'm dealing with the husband or the wife, and the other one makes the call, so why would I even find the pain? You are totally overlooking major part here, which is you have an opportunity to develop a champion.
Ooh, good.
If I'm going to make your life easier. Yeah. So the
first step. Then I will fight for that proposal.
Yeah. So the first step is to understand the decision process, understand the battlefield. Like, you need to know who's making the call here. So and you need to make sure you do that in a respectful way. Like, if you're talking with the husband, don't be like, well, your wife's going to make the call, right? Where is she? Or vice versa. Mm-hmm. You need to go, so how are you making a decision at this point? Is it just you making the decision, or your spouse potentially? So find a respectful way to understand who's involved. Yeah. And if you can't get in front of somebody who might be the decision maker or a decision maker, then you can only control what you can control, which is I'm going to do whatever I can to make you a champion for me whenever you guys do have that conversation and decide on someone. So I got to figure out what you care about. So you're going to fight for me when that choice is happening.
And then you can't, and you're not in the room.
Right. If I'm going to make a facilities manager's life so much easier, they're going to like go to battle for me against the board, and they're going to go, guys, I know he's more expensive. I would really appreciate it if we went with him though, because as a favor to me.
I know I don't ask for a lot.
Right. Exactly. That's kind of what
Yeah.
you're going for here.
Yeah.
So don't overlook that as an opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah. How do we do that? Do we cover that well?
Yeah, I think so. That answered my question. It's fine. You're looking at the situation and finding your champion.
Right.
I mean, I think we summed up a lot of kind of the realities of the struggle that's out there.
Make sure you are taking the time to find the pain, sit in it, marinate in it, put it in your back pocket, and then you need to pull it out when the objections come and they go, you are too expensive, Colin. And you go, I know, we are, but this pain won't happen. That's why you did all that work.
Yeah.
Is you did all that work to find the pain so that you can tie up the pain right next to the price and go, this is why it's so expensive. It's because this is the pain we're avoiding. You need to associate those two. And one more thing I'll say on it is when you find that pain, it's going to be re-present again in the customer's brain. But every day that goes by from then to the decision, the impact of that pain less and less. It dwindles as the brain re-fogs up the brain, right? To where a month, if you're not deciding for a month later, at that point, who is the estimator? You're just a price at this point.
Right.
It's like this price, go with the low price. So you always want to be able to retie the pain back when the decision's happening. And if it can't happen when you're on the bid, when you're with the customer, it has to happen when they're reviewing the scope. So you contract the pain into the scope itself, into the proposal. So they're reading it, they're reading the price, and they're reading what you're going to do right next to it to help them avoid pain.
And you have that next step agreement call set up.
And that's the next part. You have the NSA. So when they tell you yes or no, you have the pain to fall back on.
Well, that's why we have here, salespeople should view objections as the beginning of the sale rather than the
everything
end.
up until then is just pleasantries and going through the motions.
Yeah.
Once the objection comes, is like, now the ball game starts.
Sales activated.
Now I actually need to do my job and sell,
Yeah.
as opposed to being the cashier at a supermarket.
It's where like the art of the skill really is now applied.
Exactly.
This was awesome. Thank you so much. You know, I appreciate you not terribly calling my role play acting skills terrible.
No problem. It was better than the first time we did it.
It was. All right, Colin. Until next time.